It's the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm CJ Baumgartner. My co-host Ian Rivers are breaking down all the latest in Bemidji State athletics and going to take a bit of a focus on men's basketball today, Ian, because of our guest, Marcus Asmus. He was on Augustana recently in the last 5 to 7 years now and was part of some pretty good teams for them. He's joining us for this podcast. So, hey, Marcus, welcome on to the pod.
Hey, thanks. 5 to 7 years. That makes me feel pretty old, but thanks for bringing that up.
I just feel like I had to rub it in just a little bit. I had the chance to work with Marcus when I worked in TV. He was a photographer. And so we got to chat a little bit about some basketball, about Augustana, about Bemidji State. And it was so now we have a chance to bring you onto the pod. And I guess just for people to let you know, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you're doing now and your experience at Augustana.
Sure. Yeah, I went to Augustana in 2014 to 2018. I was one of the 3 seniors who made it out there alive. We had 5 of us who started as freshmen, and about 3 of us survived the whole 4 years there. But for my freshman year, we played pretty. We had a pretty good season. I think we lost 3 games that year, but then we got beaten in the tournament pretty early. We hosted the playoffs in Augustana in Sioux Falls, and but then my sophomore year we won the national championship and played down in Dallas, Texas for that, and that was a great year. That was pretty fun. So yeah, and then finished out the rest of my career playing a little bit more after a lot of those guys, those All-Americans, had left, and learned a lot from those couple of years. So yeah, I'm living now in Montana, back in the Rockies where I grew up, and so yeah, I'm out here and working for Logan Health, which is a hospital, and I'm just doing marketing here.
Very cool. Very cool. What was it like? Because you said you were on that national championship team. I believe CJ said you were a freshman. And so as some of those guys that were really carrying that program at the level that it was, what was it like maybe after they had left and, not necessarily having down years, but years that aren't as successful as winning a national championship? What's that like, getting a taste of that so early and then not really ever getting to chase that feeling again?
Yeah, it was my sophomore year. So my sophomore year, we won the national championship, and my freshman year, we didn't have any seniors, so it was just all learning. I hadn't had a lot of winning from my high school days, so coming and being a part of a team where we were winning like every game, it was great. I loved it, and it wasn't until my sophomore year I got a real chance to kind of learn from those guys and kind of see what that was like. And my junior year, we had another great year. I think we lost 5 games that year. So we won so many games. I can't remember how many we actually won. I only counted the losses. It was so easy. So no, but yeah. So it was great though. Yeah, it was great to learn from those guys. And once I was a senior, I started, and it, like you said, it was pretty difficult of a transition for me to go from winning almost every game to trying to be 500. So it was difficult, and it was a hard transition. It was a bit of a rebuild year for me, so it was kind of odd having some of the best years in my career for college, winning wise, was the first couple of years. But yeah, my best game was against Northern State. My senior year, we went up there and played them, and I remember we only go there every other year, and the last time I'd been there was my sophomore year. We actually lost, and there was girls in hot tubs on the baseline. They had so much going on. They really brought their A game for the fans. When you go and play there, it was never an easy game to go up to Aberdeen and play against them. And I scored 21 points in the first half. They were a top 9. I think they were the top 10 team in the country that year at that time. And went and scored 21 points the first half, couldn't stop me. And then they figured out how to stop me in the second half. I think they learned how maybe let me shoot some more threes, but yeah, that was a great game. And I kind of learned a lot, from those games, just to kind of keep my composure from those older guys when I was younger, just how to do that. And they ended up, Northern State went on to the national championship in 2017, 2018, and they ended up losing, but it felt good to kind of, prove to myself that, I can compete with a top 2 team in the country and score 21 points on them. I think the guy I was guarding was a monster. He was like 6'10", 260 pounds. He's just crazy beast.
It's interesting because you always think about guys that come into college programs, and so many people think, oh man, I'm getting here and we're going to build every season that I'm here, and it's just going to come to this peak. My senior season, we're going to leave in a bang. And there's a lot of guys that get forgotten about because they are the guys that are there through that difficult transition period, kind of on the tail end of the good years. And then, even though it's, you're fighting for 500, it's not like you're, winning 2-3 games a year, but it's still, compared to what you were used to, that's got to be a tough transition.
Yeah, it was, I was a bit of a big fish in a small pond, at my high school. And so it was interesting going to a team where I wasn't even a starter. It was hard my freshman year to adjust. And I think a lot of guys kind of go through that. And some guys can, they can stick around and they can work through it. And some guys kind of bounce around on the portal and, try to transfer. And I think, I didn't play a whole lot my first 2 years, but I learned a lot. And, I felt like I, proved myself when I did have the time. I was second in our conference for rebounding my senior year. I think I averaged like 8 rebounds a game. I think I only scored like 12 points a game, but I was mostly in there for rebounding because, big guy. So, yeah.
So, Marcus, what can you tell us about the coaching staff at Augustana? What was your experience with them from being recruited in high school to playing on that staff? Through the years of winning a national championship and just even not, what was the experience like? And did you like playing in that system? And just what was your experience with the coaching staff there?
Sure. Yeah. So it's actually kind of a more loaded question than maybe you're looking for. But yeah, I between my junior and senior year of high school, I that's kind of when you go and play AAU ball, and I tore my labrum in my shoulder 270 degrees, and so I didn't get to go play a whole lot that summer. I had to sit out the whole summer, and I really thought my college career was over, to be honest. I got to play about a month of AAU, and I think it was April that I got injured, and then I had surgery in June, and learned that I tore it 270 degrees, and they told me I wasn't going to be able to shoot a basketball until September at the earliest. And I, at that point, I didn't even know if I was gonna be able to play college basketball, and I was just really just trying to get ready and be able to play for my senior season. I thought I was just going to have to, go crazy my senior season and try to get recruited. But right before my senior season started, I wasn't even technically cleared by the trainers to go and practice, but we had some night practices that my coach would let us in, and we got some night practices when kind of after hours. And there was Coach Trumbauer. He coaches, I think he was at Black Hills State last time I saw. He was in town, and he had texted my head coach for high school, and said, "Hey, I'm in town. Just wondering if if Marcus is able to practice or something. I really like to see him play. I know he didn't get a whole lot of reps in this summer because he was injured." And my coach texted me and said, "Hey, get to the gym in 10 minutes. You got to practice." And I was like, "All right." So got in, and we had a few guys. I think it was we got like 8 guys to come to practice within like 10 minutes. So went over there to the gym, and he watched me, and I really liked Trumbauer. And at the end of the workout, he asked me if I wanted to come take a visit to Sioux Falls, which I didn't really know what I was getting into. I remember the first time I was in Sioux Falls, I got to the falls and I was like, is this it? This is the falls? And that was my first real experience in the Midwest after living in, Rocky Mountain, Denver, Colorado for my whole life. But yeah, I went there and met Coach Billiter, Coach B, um, and I had never met anyone who knew more about the game of basketball who had never played a single game of basketball himself. He played college baseball, but he knew the game of basketball better than anyone I've ever met. And so playing for him was great. We did a pick and roll, pick and pop offense, and it really played to the strengths of the guys who were in front of me, Dan Jansen and Casey Schilling. Those guys played the 5 and the 4, and those guys were all Americans and really paved the way for Augustana basketball, what it is today. And I'm sure they still run that offense. It's it's almost like an option in football where you just have so many different ways to go about it. And yeah, it really caters to the 5 and the 4 to be able to pick and pop and shoot the 3, and also roll down low and get those and ones.
And, you brought up an interesting point about working with some of those assistant coaches and the relationships you have with them. Because for people who don't know about college sports, is a lot of times you end up being with those assistant coaches more than you are the head coach. Was that what it was for you? I mean, how much interaction and kind of what's the relationship like between dealing with the head coach versus dealing with some of the assistant coaches?
So yeah, so Coach Trumbauer, he recruited me, and then the summer after, between that summer and fall, he took a job over at Black Hills State. So he actually wasn't there when I was there. He recruited me, but then Coach Othier and Coach Hederman, those two assistants were there, and like you said, those guys really are the ones who kind of you see day to day. You're in their office watching film, kind of interacting with them, and they're checking in on you, and just kind of talking with them. And so working with them was, great. It was good. It was great to, be able to have them, lean on them, and ask the questions, especially as an underclassman. You're just kind of sitting back and watching, and yeah, if you met with Coach Billiter, you kind of had a pit in your stomach. If he said, "Hey, come see me after practice," you had a little bit of a pit in your stomach because you knew it was something big. But most of the time, it was nothing too big. He's a really nice guy off the court, and real serious on the court. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I remember working. I didn't play any college ball, but I played in high school, and even at that level, you're rarely working with the head coach. We were a pretty small school, so we only had 3 or 4 coaches that we worked with, but you rarely worked with the head coach directly. You're doing your post drills, or I was kind of a swing guy, so I did both wherever they needed me that day. Hey, go do this, go do that. But yeah, you rarely work with the head coach directly, and then when you do, you get a little nervous. Even if you're like, oh, I don't think I did anything wrong, but it's still kind of like a little bit of a pit in your stomach.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, like I said, Coach B never played. I don't think he played a single game of basketball. And the times that he'd be like, "You got to do this," and he would try to show us this, and I was like, "Buddy, you don't even know how to dribble a basketball." But he's just such a brilliant basketball mind. He doesn't need to know how to dribble a basketball. He tells us how to do it, and he watched enough film and knew the whole game. And those graduate assistants was really who we really kind of fell in love with, really, because they're the guys who go in during the summer. They go and rebound for you. You text them and say, "Hey, will you come rebound for me for an hour?" And that's what they'll do. They'll go and show up 6 a.m. or 8 p.m. at night or midnight, whatever you want to do. You text them and they'll be there, and you'll have a rebounder for life.
I've always thought that was a really interesting thing about basketball coaches, is that there's 2 different types. There's the guys that can get in there and they're bodying you up and they're showing you what they want you to do in the post. And then there's guys that can just, like you said, they don't do it themselves, but they know what they're talking about. And it's crazy to think that, somebody that's not done it at a level as high as you are, you kind of, there's got to be something in the back of your mind that's saying like, what do you know about what I'm doing right now? But they do, and it's incredible.
Yeah, no, definitely. There were definitely times when as a player, as a young player, I was like, what does this guy know? He was a baseball player in college, and he's trying to tell me how to close out. He doesn't know how difficult it is to close out and then slide back and slide the other way and take a charge. He doesn't know what that feels like, but he does know. He may not have done it, but he knows exactly what he's talking about.
So Marcus, what's your experience like with Bemidji State? Obviously the programs when you were there were in two different directions. You guys were you guys were a better basketball program at the time. We were all in school versus where Bemidji State was at. But what's your experience with them? What's your experience playing at the BSU gymnasium? Anything that comes to mind?
It's a great question. I don't think we ever lost to Bemidji. So it's a little bit of a blur. I think I was trying to look up some of my stats. I don't think I hope your listeners don't get too pissed, but I don't think I played a whole lot in those games, and I don't think I really had to play a whole lot in those games. I guess as a younger player, I probably played a whole lot, but I probably didn't have to do a whole lot of scoring because I think we were just whooping up on you guys. So sorry about that. But
I think a lot of our listeners at this point understand that we have some programs that can't really hold their weight all that often. So yeah. It's definitely understandable.
Augustana's got a new hockey team. I think you guys might have the upper hand on us in the hockey world. So, maybe pull me back for that, and you guys can kind of talk your talk when we play you guys in hockey. But
I don't know, man. Sometimes you get nervous when they play St. Thomas. So I don't know.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think it's funny though, CJ. I'm pretty sure you were probably at some of probably
for
both
sure.
At least one of the games that I was there. I think it's funny that we talked about that when we worked together, and I was like, yeah, so I played basketball, and you were like, oh, I went to a lot of games like that, and I was like, oh, really? I was like, and then we found out we were overlapped when we went to school, and I was like, you probably were there. You probably watched me play. You had no idea.
I was probably 5 feet from you because I worked on, I was taking stats. So I was at the scorer's table, right next to the Bemidji State bench. So we were probably no more than 5 feet apart and had no idea. I actually, when we were doing some research for this show, I was looking back at some of our old R&B sports talks when we had the radio show to see if we had to mention some bum named Marcus Asmus back when Bemidji State was playing Augustana. But no, I guess we didn't have to because, like you said, you guys took care of business pretty early. So
yeah, and like you said, I didn't mind playing there. There usually wasn't a whole lot of fans, which was kind of a bummer. But yeah, it's not a bad gym. I liked it, had a good floor. It kind of felt like a high school gym, which, is fine for me. I actually really liked playing in those smaller spaces because it didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm like in the big leagues, all the time. And as a younger player, I kind of needed that in between. You didn't want to go play like you're playing at Ball Arena or, some big NBA sized thing. We're playing at Mankato. Mankato has like a bowl. They have like a bowl where you walk down from the top to go to play, and I always thought that was pretty cool. But it was a little intimidating playing there versus at Bemidji.
We didn't have any people sitting in hot tubs on the court side, but maybe I should bring it up to somebody and see if we can get that idea going.
Yeah, as long as it's not you don't want to blind anybody.
Oh my! I would blind so many people. It's a little special advantage. I would throw people like you off their game so fast.
Yeah,
so
there you go. Yeah, I remember I was sitting on the bench and wishing I was playing my sophomore year, or I think it was sophomore year. I was wishing I was playing because they had in the first half, at least, because the first half they had all the chicks were in the hot tub, and then the second half it was all the linemen were in the hot tub because we started beating them, and then I think that was what ended up doing it. So we couldn't make any free throws because they were in the hot tub.
You see some giant hairy dudes in a hot tub, you're like, I can't look at this.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's a little distracting.
Did you ever think to go jump in the hot tub after the game?
Well, since we lost, no, if we had won, maybe, but definitely not after a loss. Coach B would have had me walking home from Aberdeen.
So, you mentioned your time at Sioux Falls, and you mentioned that did you take any other visits to any other NSIC schools, or what was that recruiting process like, or was it pretty much Augustana the whole way?
So, like I said, I got injured, so it kind of threw me for a loop. But yeah, that summer where I wasn't playing, I went and visited Black Hills State over in Spearfish, and on the other side of the river, and I loved it there. I thought that was such a cool area more than anything. I almost went there just based on the fact that it reminded me of the mountains and that it was just a cool area. I ended up just not going that direction for, a whole lot of, personal reasons, but on that trip I went there, and then I also went to Mary in Bismarck, North Dakota. That one was more of an obvious. That one just didn't feel that was your classic North Dakota, school, and North Dakota just wasn't really for me. It was a little too flat. I think I pulled up to the school and I looked at my dad and I told him I wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't feeling at home there. So it was a pretty quick visit and kind of knew right away. So that was the only other NSIC school that was interested in me at the time. And I really think Augustana kind of swooped on me early. It was kind of before that anybody knew that I was going to be playing my senior season in full. And so I think they kind of swooped on me early. Actually, the day before I practiced in front of the Augustana coach, it was Northwest Oklahoma came and visit and wanted to watch me practice at like a 6 a.m. before school. So we had a 6 a.m. practice, and he came and I think he invited my parents to the practice as well and wanted to meet them and scheduled to have me come out there. And luckily, Augustana swooped on me the next day and said, "Hey, we want you to come before that." So I went there and ended up having to text that coach from Oklahoma and tell him that I was going to go. I had already committed because by the end of my visit, Coach B gave me a ride to the airport and said, "Hey, we want to extend an offer for you to play here." And I remember he went around, he said that, and it was like 6 a.m. He was giving me a ride in like his minivan to the Sioux Falls airport. He extended that, offer to go play there. And I was just so shook that he had like done that at like 6 a.m. I wasn't even fully awake. And my dad, he went out to go grab our bags. And I looked at my dad, I said, "I think I want to play here." And he was like, "Well, you should tell him before you get on the plane and before he, offers it to somebody else, and then your spot's gone." And so, yeah, by the end of it, I came around and I said, "Hey, coach, I'd like to play here." So I verbally committed then and ended up signing that fall. And then, I think they kind of swooped on me a little early. I really wasn't even 100% by the time they had offered that, which, I was really grateful for. And then I went on to my senior season and averaged like 22 and 14. So I don't know if I would have had a lot more offers or, I have no idea, but yeah, it's kind of just how it went down.
Yeah, it's surprising that you didn't want to live in North Dakota. I wish I could tell both of my siblings that. My sister goes to Grand Forks, North Dakota, and then my brother, he goes to Moorhead, but he lives in Fargo.
Yeah.
So I always have to give them a hard time about moving to North Dakota at least for school. So
yeah.
And it's funny you bring up Black Hills State and Spearfish. I went out there in the summer of 2020, and it's a really nice area. We just went in the Black Hills, and the running joke with me and my now wife is every town down there is like historic. Every town, you're entering downtown, it says now visiting historic downtown Spearfish. And I think Spearfish is the first town where we realized it had become a pattern, and we're like, what is it about every little South Dakota town out here that just has so much history packed into it? I had to dig deep and do some research on that.
Yeah. I never played in the Corn Palace, but that was always kind of a dream of mine
Oh
to go play
God.
in the Corn
Oh.
Palace.
So opportunity missed. You were
I know, right? I know. I don't know why the national championship game wasn't in the Corn Palace. I think we put our bid into it, but the rest of the country wasn't too fond of that.
I think they'll come around, if we just give them a little bit of time.
Yeah, I know.
The corn kid's been doing wonders. So I think that can help out if you think about it. But, that national championship game and that experience, I know we've talked about it before a few different times, but when just talk about what that tournament run was like and what it was like getting to go down. I mean, just how, is it just another tournament game or did they really treat it like a national championship game, getting you guys down there and preparing you and all that kind of stuff?
Oh man, I mean, on the way down there, you don't really know what to expect. It kind of just felt like another trip, that was the year that we ended up beating Iowa on a buzzer beater, which, after we beat Iowa on a buzzer beater, I was like, this is the best feeling we're going to have all year. Like, how could we top beating Iowa on a buzzer beater and being one of the Sports Center top 10 plays? You see me running across the court, grabbing our Dan Jansen after he hit this stupid floater from like 15 feet on his back leg. I don't even know how he did that, but yeah, so it felt kind of like, I was just trying to, take it day by day and just kind of treat it like a normal tournament. And then once we got down there and we saw the venue that we were in, it felt different. We were in really nice hotels and they just kind of treated, you got so much swag and gear from all that like right away, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. But yeah, so we ended up we had practice the day before. We just had a walkthrough the day before the Elite Eight game, because the way that they do it in D2s, I know you guys, it's a little bit different than D1. I think a lot of people asked me that when I was saying we were going to the Elite Eight, that they didn't understand. That's not like, D1 where you have the 64 and it's kind of goes that same way. It's the NSIC tournament and then regionals and then the Elite Eight. So regionals is the 64 through Sweet 16 run, which we ended up getting to host that in Sioux Falls. We played at the Pentagon, which was kind of a huge advantage, I think, to us, which was great. But then, yeah, that year the Elite Eight was in Dallas, and yeah, we got there, and the day before the Elite Eight game, we had a walkthrough, and Dan Jansen was, he was D2 player of the year that year, and kind of just everyone looked up to him, everybody. And that walkthrough, all of a sudden, we were shooting free throws, and we were just kind of doing our own stuff on our end, and then I remember hearing him scream on the other end, and we look over, and he's just on the ground. And everybody just looked so depressed. Like we had just seen Superman, fall down and, actually get hit. And he walked off. We all helped. A couple guys helped him off. And he ended up, I don't remember exactly what the injury was. I think he either fractured his foot or had done something. He had something, and he had never missed a game in the whole time I'd been there. He had to sit out that Elite Eight game. So we had to play the Elite Eight game, which almost felt like one of the hard, the Elite Eight game was, for when we won the national championship, you'd think maybe that would be the easy game for us. That was honestly that was maybe the hardest game for us to play, because we had to play that without him. And yeah, we ended up pulling through. I got a couple of minutes in that game. I don't think I did anything, but pretty fun to say that I played in that Elite Eight game. And then the Final Four game, a couple of days later, we were playing a team from Oregon, and we scouted them, and we started looking at, we started watching their film, and we were like, I don't really know why we couldn't beat these guys. Like kind of going into the tournament, we were like kind of overwhelmed. And after that Elite Eight game, we were a little overwhelmed. And Dan said, he thought he was going to try to pull through and play that Final Four. And he got he was actually my road roommate. So we had roommates that when we went on the road, you always stayed in the same hotel room with the same person. And Dan was my road roommate, which was kind of crazy, which was, another crazy aspect of the whole thing. So I got to stay in a hotel room and hang out with the best player on our team for every road trip. And I remember before the game, he got a needle about 4 or 5 inches that the trainer brought and shoved it up his foot, and gave him some, I don't know what it was, honestly. I think some sort of numbing thing to try to get him through the game. And he said, do whatever you gotta. I'm going to play in this game. I'm not sitting out another game. And I think the other team was so shook to see him even walking that I think we ended up beating them like 20 or 30 points, because I think right away he came out, hit like a couple back-to-back threes, and within the first 5 minutes we knew we were going to win that game.
And there's a whole bunch of stuff that is really fascinating about that year, and then also just about some of the games you got to play. I know you've gotten the opportunity to go down into Duke and play an exhibition game against them. I know we don't have a ton of time left, and I got one more question for you afterwards. But talk about that experience. Were you going to be the guy to take out Grayson Allen?
I fouled Grayson Allen. That's my claim to fame. I fouled him. I hit him right on the leg. I think a lot of my friends, after I'd said that, they saw that on TV, they told me I should have hit him a little bit harder for all the fouls that he's done. But
I was just thinking the same thing in my head. I didn't say it out loud, but
I think they wish I would have got him a little bit better than the ticky tack foul that I got on him. But
it's self-preservation. You didn't want Coach K to murder you on the floor.
Oh, for sure,
yeah, you saw the transfer portal open. You didn't want to, you were hoping to get your foot in the door there.
Yeah. No. So the year after the national championship, Duke always invites the team that won the national championship, basically to humble them up a little bit. They bring them up. They bring them to North Carolina and pretty much beat the crap out of them. And they did that. But yeah, we went over there, and I was feeling fine before the game because we had that experience the year before at Iowa, and I felt like, I was like, all right, it's just D1 team, it's big. It's not that big of a gym. I don't know if you guys have been there. It's really not that big of a gym. So it wasn't too like overwhelming with that. I felt fine. I was like, all right, I was hitting shots in warm, but I was feeling real good. And then we do the national anthem, and I look across, we're parallel on the free throw lines, lined up for the national anthem. And right across from me is Coach K. And that's when I lost it. Yep. That was when I was like, I think if we lose by anything under 100, we're going to be good. I think that we call it a win.
It's a hashtag moral victory kind of day.
Yeah, he doesn't even look real, honestly. Like when I looked over, he looks like clay. Like when you go to those,
like a wax figure.
Yeah, he looks like those wax figures when you go. They have like those wax museums. That's honestly, I looked at him, I was like, he doesn't even look real. Like he does not look like a real human being. It was too freaky to look over there, and I was holding it in until then. And but I did score 2 points, so you got to count it. So
all right,
that's my little claim to fame.
Fouled Grayson Allen, got 2 points off of him. So there you go. I mean, hey, more than a lot of people can say.
True.
Last question for you, Marcus, and then we'll let you go here. Appreciate you having you on the podcast here. We had Ryan Campo on a couple months ago to preview the Angelo State Bemidji State football game. He had some trash talk for you, so I want to know if you heard what he said and if you have anything to say to him, former coworker you had as well at the TV station in Duluth.
Why don't you tell me what he said, and then I'll decide what I want to say.
I think he said something along the lines of riding the bench on the national championship team or something like that. I can't remember.
Okay. Well, I must have missed the time that he played, any decent sports, in college or high school. I think I missed that. If he wants to send me some of those highlights that he had in hockey, I know he's a hockey guy, living in Texas. I'm not sure how that really works. So yeah, I'd love to see his stats from his college career. So that's I guess that's really all I got to say. And I hope he's doing well. Me and Ryan are good friends, so all love from that though.
You just remind him how the Red Wings are doing, and then you just kind of leave it at that.
He'll go back into his hole.
All right, Marcus, we appreciate you having you on the podcast. I'll let you go so you can watch the Nuggets play. But great having you on the pod, and we look forward to having you on sometime if you're willing to come back on.
Hell yeah. Appreciate it.